LeBron James, over the last few years, has shattered our beliefs of how long we thought a player could sustain excellence for. I mean, the man's been in the league for 20 years now, and we're not even seeing a glimpse of him slowing down. LeBron has averaged 25 points or more for 19 straight seasons, as well as 19 straight All-Star appearances. He's been running the league for 2 decades straight. Despite coming off of a 29.8 rebound and 7 assists season, and leading the Lakers to the conference finals at the age of 38, LeBron has talked about the topic of retirement.
But we'll see what happens going forward. And I don't know. I had a lot to think about, to be honest. And
for a brief moment, this left the basketball world stunned. It was quite unclear if that was LeBron's final postseason or if he had more in the tank. However, just recently at the ESPYs, LeBron said something completely different.
When the season ended, I said I wasn't sure if I was going to keep playing. In that moment, I'm asking myself if I can still play without cheating the game. Can I give everything to the game still? I don't care how many more points I score or what I can or cannot do on the floor. The real question for me is, can I play without cheating this game? The day I can't give the game everything on the floor is the day I'll be done. Lucky for you guys, that day is not today.
LeBron made it clear that the 2023 NBA season was not his last. But this really begs the question, how much longer will LeBron James play in the NBA? I know exactly how much longer LeBron James will play in the NBA. It's as long as he wants to. You see, unlike every other player in NBA history who had father time creeping up on them in their later years of their career, LeBron simply just doesn't have this issue. LeBron somehow managed to fight off father time itself and extend his prime playing days to whenever he chooses to stop. And as a result of this, LeBron could pretty much play in the NBA for however long he wants to. In 1986, the New Jersey Nets were a pretty mediocre team that was looking to spur up some excitement in their fan base. Do you know what they did? They offered a 50-year-old Wilt Chamberlain $362,000 to come play the remaining 7 games of the 1986 season. Wilt Chamberlain was out of professional sports for over 13 years at this point. Wilt Chamberlain, of course, respectfully declined this offer, saying, "I didn't consider it at all. It sounded like a ploy, a joke. If a 50-year-old Wilt Chamberlain could get this ludicrous of an offer, just imagine what James could get. I wouldn't be surprised if the Cleveland Cavaliers drafted LeBron James III in 2050 and asked the 66-year-old LeBron James if he wanted to play with his grandsons for $10 million. All jokes aside, if something like this could happen to someone like Wilt Chamberlain, who retired at the age of 36, imagine how old LeBron could be, still getting offers from NBA teams to play. And this is actually completely reasonable if you're asking. LeBron James, if he really wanted to, could play in the league until he's at least the age of 50. I mean, really think about it. This man is about to be 39 years old, still putting up almost 30 points a game, 8 rebounds, and 7 assists a game. I mean, this guy's still in his prime. I think we still have a long time to go before we can even start talking about LeBron not being any use to any team. LeBron is still putting up superstar level production, but what makes it interesting is how he's doing it. You see, LeBron over his career has been constantly evolving his game. As his athleticism has started to fade in recent years, he's added many different aspects to his game that compensate for this loss. He's upgraded his playmaking abilities, he literally led the league in assists in 2020, he's become a better three-point shooter, adapting to the modern game, pretty much making him future-proof. But one of the most important things that LeBron has evolved over the last half a decade or so is his leadership abilities and basketball IQ. This alone could keep him in the league for another decade. As LeBron's production on the court eventually starts to decline, his leadership and knowledge for the game will be his best trait. Eventually, LeBron will have to take a less dominant role on a team, probably coming off the bench at some point in his later career. If LeBron really wanted to, he could be somewhat of a player coach where he'd come off the bench, give enough production to keep him around, but be like a mentor to younger and inexperienced players in the team. I think LeBron would be perfect for a role like this. Another important reason why teams would want an old, washed LeBron on their team is simply the fact that they have LeBron James on their team. Just the presence of LeBron on your squad will instantly give your team more media attention and revenue. If a struggling franchise ever needed a spark plug to jumpstart their team's attention and money, signing LeBron James wouldn't be the worst option. Just think about how many records and pre-existing notions of longevity LeBron could shatter. But I know what you're thinking. There's no way LeBron would do any of this. And to that I would say, you're absolutely right. Just because LeBron is capable of doing this doesn't mean he'll actually do it. The truth is, LeBron has more things ahead of him after basketball. He has his second career to pursue. LeBron, we know, wants to do more with his life after basketball. He's mentioned he wanted to own his own team, he's wanted to produce his own shows and entertainment, and on top of that, I don't think LeBron wants to exit the league averaging 5 points and 3 rebounds a game. Based off of LeBron's personality, he would be much more inclined to leave the game when he's still on top, the far more illustrious way to do it. Okay, so we've established that LeBron could play the Udonis Haslem role if he really wanted to until he's 50. But when is he actually going to stop playing NBA basketball? Well, over the last few years, we've gotten some indicators of his career trajectory. One of the most clear and simple indicators we've seen is that LeBron James wants to play with his sons in the league. He's mentioned that he wants to play with not only just Bronny James, but also Bryce James. Bronny James just graduated high school and is playing college basketball at USC next year. And Bryce is in the class of 2025, so he'll be a junior in high school next fall. Based off these facts alone, we can somewhat find out when each of these two players will be drafted. Bronny, as we mentioned, is going to be a freshman in college next year at USC. Now, despite all the hype this man is getting around his name, I doubt Bronny James will be a one-and-done prospect. Right now, he's projected to come off the bench, and USC is projected to be a top 25 team in the country next season. So according to myself, Bronny will most likely start by his sophomore year and have a great season and get drafted after that. This would mean that Bronny James would most likely get drafted during the 2025 NBA draft. So we'll see Bronny first lace up in the NBA in 3 seasons. But what about Bryce? I believe Bryce will have a very similar path as his brother. He'll graduate high school in 2025, and then he'll play about 2 seasons in college before he'll get drafted about in the year 2027. So by this logic, LeBron James will at least have to play through the 2027 and 28 NBA season. This would be a minimum of 25 NBA seasons that LeBron would most likely play. That's 3 more seasons than the record holder for the most seasons played, which belongs to Vince Carter with 22. This would put LeBron James at a minimum age of 43 years old. There's one more pretty good indicator of how long LeBron will play. LeBron recently during the ESPYs said he wanted to keep playing until he has nothing left to give to the game. But what does this actually mean? LeBron is still in his absurdly long prime. Like we mentioned, he's still producing at an all-time level. Lucky for us, we have all-time greats who have played 20 plus seasons in the league and sustained great numbers, whose career trajectories we can compare to LeBron. Right here, we have a chart showing point, rebound, and assist averages combined per season for the whole career. The first player we have is Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, who had a 20-year career. He broke the 50-point total of the Big 3 stats 3 times in his career, but unfortunately took a steep decline towards the end of his career. Next, we have Kobe Bryant, who had a slow start to his NBA career, but eventually sustained great stats into the middle and later years. But then at the tail end of his playing days, he dealt with a lot of injuries, which dropped his stats. Next, we have Tim Duncan, who played 19 years. Duncan was a problem as soon as he stepped foot in the NBA. He sustained in the 40s and 30s for the majority of his career, but then tapered off like normal. Next, we have Karl Malone in blue, whose stats honestly look like Tim Duncan but on steroids. His longevity was also great, but it tapered off like normal. Here in red, we have LeBron, whose trajectory is anything but normal. I mean, he's somehow increasing his production on the court as he gets older, which we haven't seen from anyone else in NBA history. It's so hard to predict LeBron's career trajectory because he's one of a kind. We've literally never seen anyone keep up this kind of production ever. I mean, I'm no time traveler, but this is my best guess of LeBron's career trajectory. Like we said before, I truly believe LeBron could play in the league into his late 40s and even 50 years old. But he won't. Trust me. LeBron's end won't be a dramatic dip like all the other legends that came before him. LeBron is just built different. His end will be a slow but gradual decline, where he'll choose to tell his body to quit, not the other way around. If you also notice at the bottom of your screen, the final year of LeBron James's career is season 26, which is the 2028 and 29 season. So 6 more seasons. By this time, I think LeBron will have achieved everything he's wanted to in the NBA. He'll have all the achievements, awards, and records that he desires. He'll have the championships and fond memories to cherish forever. He'll have played multiple seasons with both of his sons. I think this seems like a perfect time for LeBron to retire. And the season that LeBron declares is going to be his last will be one of the biggest events in sports history. If you thought Kobe's last dance about 7 or 8 years ago was huge, LeBron's will be so much bigger. Now, I know you've already had your daily dose of speculation in this video already, but by the time LeBron James retires, he'll have an infinite amount of records to his name. When LeBron retires, the sheer amount of volume in almost every statistical record in basketball will just be unfathomable. But I wanted to talk about a few major categories that LeBron will make a huge dent in. And of course, all this is just speculation. The first and pretty obvious category we can start with is seasons played. Right now, Vince Carter holds this record with 22 seasons played, but by LeBron's retirement, he'll finish with 26 seasons played, 4 more than Carter ever had, completely shattering the highest standard of longevity in basketball. The next one I want to talk about is all NBA teams. Now, currently in 2023, LeBron is the all-time leader in all NBA selections with 19, 4 more than the next highest player. In 2029, I believe LeBron will rack up about 4 more all-NBA selections, putting him at 23, absolutely mind-boggling. Next, let's talk about all-star selections. Right now, in the current day, LeBron is tied with first with Kareem at 19 all-star appearances. And of course, you probably see where this is going. LeBron James is most likely to be selected to the all-star game every single year until he retires. I mean, Kobe did it, Mike did it, Kareem did it. I don't see why LeBron James wouldn't achieve this. So that gives him 6 more all-star appearances, putting him with 25 total. Now these first 3 metrics were fairly easy and simple to determine. They were all accolades that you can achieve a maximum of 1 per year. But what about something more difficult to calculate? I'm talking about points, rebounds, assists, the big 3. And surprisingly enough, there is actually a way we can predict how many points, boards, and assists LeBron will accumulate. During LeBron's last 3 seasons, he put up numbers that look like this, and a combination of the 3 that looks like this. Now, remember earlier in the video when we looked at LeBron's trajectory of points, rebounds, and assists combined? Well, what I did is took these numbers, which by the way are completely made up, and found the ratio of how many points from the total number belong to the categories of points, rebounds, and assists. So over the last 3 seasons of LeBron's career, which I'm using as a sample, about 65% of his total of the 3 stats belong to points, about 19% belong to rebounds, and 16% belong to assists. So how we're going to find out LeBron's predicted stats is multiply this percentage from each stat by the random number I made up about LeBron's stat trajectory. I know, a very unconventional, uncertain, and even psychotic way to find this out, but I think the predictions I found doing this are actually pretty solid. So this is what LeBron's numbers look like in the next 6 years. I think this seems somewhat reasonable. Now, based on these averages, we can find out how many total stats LeBron will put up, multiplying the average by games played. And it looks something like this. Based off the new CBA, or a collective bargaining agreement, the NBA will implement next year, the minimum amount of games played to win awards is 65, so knowing LeBron, I think he'll reach that milestone for the next 4 years until he's satisfied with his achievements, and scales back his load during the final years of his career. So based off this, LeBron will accumulate 9,562 points, 2,748 rebounds, and 2,362 assists. But how does this all look compared to other legends of the game? We'll first start off with rebounds. LeBron right now is all the way over here, ranked 32nd all-time in total rebounds. Despite having 5-figure rebounds in his career, still is behind 31 other players. But by 2029, LeBron James will have over 13,000 rebounds and will be 15th all-time in total rebounds. He'll be ahead of all-time great bigs like Charles Barkley, Dikembe Mutombo, Dennis Rodman, and even Shaquille O'Neal in rebounds. That's crazy. He'll also pass up Elgin Baylor as the highest ranked non-big man in total rebounds. Next, we have assists, which LeBron already is 4th all-time, over 10k assists. By 2029, LeBron James will be 2nd all-time, only coming short of John Stockton, who is miles ahead of the competition, even LeBron. And finally, points, which I think is the most interesting one. Right now, as you're all aware of, LeBron has the most points of any player. But what you don't consider is how large of a gap this will get by the time he retires. Let's look at the scoring trajectory of the top 5 total point leaders all time. At 5th place, we have Michael Jordan, who obviously racked up a lot of points in his career, but these 2 retirement gaps really prevented him from being any higher. Next, we have Kobe at number 4, who who got off to a slow start but eventually worked his way up to the top. Right here we have Karl Malone at number 3 all time, who had a pretty consistent career of putting the ball in the basket. At number 2 we have Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, who had a hot start into the league and rode that wave all the way to the 2nd spot all time. But at number 1, I don't even need to say anymore. LeBron is going to absolutely destroy this record. No one for a long time is going to break this record. If LeBron does happen to live up to my personal predictions, it'll be something beautiful to see happen. LeBron will set himself apart from every other player in NBA history. LeBron may get a lot of hate now, but trust me, in 10 years, 20 years, and even longer than that, we're going to appreciate this man's greatness.